What's up, y'all? Thanks so much for clicking on the video. My name is Leah, and let's recap and review Real Housewives of Miami. This is season 7, episode 13. And baby, Stephanie need to shut up about that plane. Larsa need to let it go with Lisa, and Lisa need to act like she has been places. Because girl, the embarrassment. The three of them worked my nerves this episode. But overall, I thought it was an entertaining episode. But let's get into this review. So y'all know sometimes before we get in to the review, we get a little spicy just a little bit. And I just got a few things I want to talk to you guys about. So first up, Kiki. So I thought I talked about this, and I think I did, but it was still in my phone, so let's talk about it anyway. So this was captured by TVD when Kiki sat down with OK Magazine back in August, on August the 27th. If I can find the link to the article, I'll definitely link it in the description box below. But this is what was said. It says Kiki Barth teases that the hashtag RHOM reunion. At this reunion, you're going to see a lot of people take accountability. Some people think they are sitting on such a high horse, she tells OK Magazine, but the reunion was very chaotic. The reunion should be a whole season by itself. It's actually worse than the season. So I wonder what's going to happen, because to say that the reunion was worse, and this is not the first time Kiki has said this. I think she said this in her Carlos King interview as well as another interview that I saw she did. But if she's saying that the reunion is a lot worse than the season, then I'm like, what happened? Because something had to go down for Kiki to block and unfollow Gertie. But also it's like, but you're in one breath, you're saying people took accountability. And honestly, that's what a lot of people who have been watching the show have wanted to see, is the ladies come together more, be more united, but also they want people to take accountability, specifically the cast, for the way that they've been treating Gertie. So if people did take accountability, who was sitting on their high horse that didn't take accountability? That's interesting to me. Okay. But moving on, let's talk about the after show. So there's this clip going around of Marisol and Alexia arguing about the argument that happened in this episode when they were at the Plaza de España. And Alexia saying that nobody defended her, but then she threw out there that Julia defended her, when I'm like, girl, I didn't see Julia say anything. But let me play that clip for you guys.
Why wasn't anybody defending me? I feel like nobody defends me.
Don't say that when you're looking at me. I jumped in and said, like, why are you fighting with her?
Cállate la boca ya, te tienes hasta aquí. I don't have to give you an explanation.
It doesn't matter.
But she
Nobody
ignored me.
defended me.
Excuse
Nobody
me.
defended me, by the way.
You don't remember me saying
you.
to her,
You
why are
guys
you
did
mad
it.
at her? I didn't go on the plane either. Like,
No,
I don't
but that
get
wasn't
it.
enough. It wasn't
Oh,
enough.
I needed to
All
say
the
more?
Stuff. No, you and
Okay, that
everybody
was
else.
rational.
You and everybody else.
Rationality doesn't
No,
work
my
in
love,
this group.
it
You gotta
was
be
bad.
crazy.
I think Julia defended me, actually. I think Julia defended
Okay,
me.
Julia
I don't
defended you,
remember.
I
Yeah.
didn't. Okay, let's keep going. Keep it moving.
So here's the thing.
And by the way,
I did not think that was that big of a deal for people to me making such a gripe about it. I've seen it on like several blog pages, and I'm like, y'all, we've seen Alexia and Marisol like argue like this before. You know, if you watch Ultimate Girls Trip, the third season, I reviewed that as well. I have a playlist for it. Marisol and Alexia were getting into it, and the way that Alexia was speaking to Marisol, it wasn't very kind, okay? At times, Alexia do be talking to Marisol at the side of her neck, and sometimes you see Marisol defend herself. Other times, you see her kind of just like acquiesce and take it, and in that moment, Marisol was like, girl, don't play with me like that. And for Alexia to throw out Julia's name, because when you look at the clip, Julia wasn't saying much of nothing. She was just watching them argue, and she was just surprised that they were arguing in the Plaza de España. Like, girl, y'all are embarrassing us. Like, what are we doing? So, I was like, Alexia, you're being a dick right now. But for a lot of people to be like, oh my gosh, I knew their friendship wasn't, I just feel like people want them to fall apart because they don't like them. A lot of people have said that they are able to stomach Alexia more without Marisol, and vice versa. I've seen people say they like Marisol when Alexia is not around. But I feel like people fail to forget or fail to realize that these women have been together for like 20 years. Their friendship is 2 decades old. Like, most people aren't just going to throw that away for fame. They're not trying to pull a Julia. Julia has been friends with Adriana for 10 years, and you see the way she playing in her face. We've seen the way that they care about each other. So it definitely gave, like, this is a siblings kind of rift where it's like, girl, we gonna talk crap to each other, but 10 seconds later we're gonna be fine. And that's what happened. But I get it, people don't like them, so they want to see them fall out, and if they do end up falling out, it's definitely gonna be filmed, and I'll be watching. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about is another situation that happened on the after show. I don't have the clip, but there was a situation that happened between Lisa, Gertie, Alexia, Marisol, Stephanie, and Adriana. So when the women who were sitting in the the lobby area of the hotel, that would be Larsa, Stephanie, Alexia, and Marisol, and Stephanie was drawing her diagram. The other women who were left at the restaurant were on their way back. Gertie was telling this story about like how trauma-filled and how traumatic it was for her to have her period at 9 years old. Lisa, being like inconsiderate and very insensitive, yells out, "Carrie." Okay, which really hurt Gertie's feelings, which is understandable. Lisa on the after show was like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't know." And I'm like, Lisa, this lady is telling you how it was traumatic for her to get her period at 9, and you yell out, "Carrie." Like, what was not computing that would be taken as a joke? Like, she was trying to have a real moment with y'all. So Gertie gets out of the car upset, and rightfully so. She then goes to the table where the ladies were, where Stephanie is drawing her diagram, and she's upset, worked up, trying to tell the women what Lisa just did, and Stephanie kind of freaks out, and she's like, "I can't deal with this," and that hurts Gertie's feelings as well. So after that whole situation, Marisol and Alexia basically were like, "Yeah, we not getting on that plane," and so they summons Adriana to their room to tell her about everything, and was like, "We don't think you should get on the plane. Like, Stephanie is doing too much. We don't think you should get on the plane." So basically it seems like, not even seems like, Marisol and Alexia were about to rally the troops to get everyone not to ride on Stephanie's plane. On their way to go to Gertie's room, or I think Larsa's room, they run into Gertie, and they're like, "Gertie, where are you going?" And Gertie's like, "Oh, I'm going to see Stephanie. She wants to apologize." And Alexia and Marisol was like, "Girl, she just cussed you out and yelled at you. Like, why are you kissing her ass? Like, what are you doing?" And that's one thing I do, not even one thing, there's multiple things I find annoying about Gertie, but one of the major things is I feel like Gertie is too forgiving. Like, she forgave Lisa on the after show so easily, and then to forgive Stephanie that quickly, I'm like, Gertie, learn how to be mad. It's okay to be angry. It's okay for you to harbor a grudge against these women. Like, that lady freaked out on you. Lisa was very inconsiderate. You need to hold people's feet to the fire sometimes. I feel like that is why some of these women feel like it's okay to just kind of push Gertie to the side, because she seems like a very genuine and kind person, but it doesn't seem like she like really tells people about themselves. And I'm like, girl, I know you got it in you, so do it. Like, just do it, okay? But that's all I got for y'all. Let's get into this review. All right, y'all, so let's get into this episode. So it opens up, and we're still in Seville. We actually see Julia and Gertie get down to the hotel lobby first, and they're waiting for the rest of the women. We then see Kiki, and then we see Lisa. Gertie actually makes a comment about Lisa actually being on time, and I was with Gertie. I was surprised. And this also lets me know that Lisa will show up on time when she knows she's gonna get left or she's gonna get cussed out. Because when Stephanie cussed her out in that Sprinter on their way to the narcissistic party and told her, "Girl, if I ever give my plane to y'all and you're late, I will leave you on that tarmac," Lisa knew she would get left in Seville, and she really wanted to go to Marbella. Because you can't tell me that she was actually early. She was early. That lets me know that Lisa, when she's an hour to 2 hours or maybe 30 to 45 minutes late to something, it's because she knows that the people that she's late for aren't going to chastise her or reprimand her about her behavior, because they have created an environment where she knows she can do that and get away with it. Because I was like, oh, so we can be on time. Okay, you just be choosing to be inconsiderate. I see you now, Lisa. So then, while they're sitting down there waiting for the rest of the ladies, you have Kiki in her confessional basically saying that, she's still annoyed and pretty upset about what happened between her and Adriana the night before, but she knows that this trip is really important to Julia, so she doesn't really want to like hash out the situation. She wants the focus to be on Julia. We then see Lisa basically say the same thing to Julia and the rest of the women sitting there, because she's just like, last night was crazy, but I know that this is an important moment and I want to be on my best behavior because this is for you. So while they're waiting, Julia reveals to them that Marisol and Alexia aren't coming. The other women that are sitting with Julia are like, what do you mean they're not coming? This is really important to you. Why aren't they coming? And Julia basically says they didn't want to come. They basically told me, we talked about it. It's okay, you guys. Like, the plane situation and all the stuff that happened the night before, they just said they needed a break. So they're just like, that is crazy, Julia. And this also shows how much of like a thirsty loser social climber Julia is, and how she really wants badly to be clicked up with the group that she feels dominates this group. Because you can't tell me that like you have a legitimate reason to be mad at Marisol and Alexia. And I told y'all, I like Marisol, but in this moment, girl, you deserve all the lashings, but I'm also not going to lash them because I don't like Julia. And I feel as though her having this egg on her face, being hurt by the way that Marisol and Alexia are doing her, is warranted. Because as much as I don't really see it for Adriana, and I'm pretty indifferent to Gertie sometimes, like I tell y'all, she annoys me, they have been such genuine friends to Julia, and the way that she has done this entire season in order to gain favor with Marisol and Alexia, she deserves to feel stupid right now. She deserves to feel played, and she deserves to feel like crap, because you have people who have had your back. You've had people that were willing to fight for you and with you, and you discarded them because you wanted to be clicked up with people that you saw as the alphas of the group and people you felt as though could get you to a certain place. That's why social climbing can be considered bad and why people look at it so nastily, because oftentimes it's people discarding people who have been there for them for people that wouldn't even piss on them if they was on fire. Like, because I was like, girl, you have every right to be mad. And Julia trying her best to act unbothered in the confessional, being like, I can't really do anything about it. It's above me now, pretty much. And even when she's sitting with the women, she's she's trying her best to act like she's not bothered by the fact that they're not coming. So then we actually see Marisol and Alexia, and they're on the terrace part of their I think their hotel room, okay? And so they both are just like, between the arguments that happened the night before, Stephanie and her playing, it's just too much, and I just need a break. They're both just like, we just need a break. We need a break. We need a break. We need a break. So you see Marisol in her confessional saying, I like Stephanie, but that Mussolini move she pulled the night before with all that papers and these rules, I can't do it. And I need a break from her right now. And she said the constant arguments with the women is too much. So while they're sitting down at the table, Marisol basically tells Alexia, you need to text Stephanie, and you should be the one to text her because, sometimes I can be very short and like straightforward in text, but you text a lot better than me. So we end up going back to the scene of the women in the lobby, we see Stephanie and Larsa, and they're like, who are we waiting for? And somebody says Adriana, and by this time, they don't tell Stephanie or Larsa that Marisol and Alexia aren't coming, but they just are like, Adriana is the only one that we're missing for right now. So we actually see Alexia typing up the text message, and it basically says something about like, sorry, we can't attend this trip to Seville. We just need a break for ourselves. We need a moment to relax. And we actually see them text Stephanie. Stephanie reads the text message, and she is actually really annoyed, upset, and bothered and hurt by them texting her this. She's in the confessional being like, what do you mean you can't come? Like, we just had a good night the night before. We're laughing and having a good time. And now you don't want to come? Like, isn't this supposed to be about Julia? Like, what's going on? Like, what happened in the span of this like night? So then we see the women actually get on the sprinter, and then Adriana pulls up, and she talks about how she's actually upset from the night before as well. She tried to reach out to Kiki, at least I think she said 3 or 4 times, but Kiki has been playing her dust, and she was like, I was trying to apologize, but it is what it is. My thing about it is, if I'm mad at you, don't text me right away. Just let me be mad for a hot minute. And then after, like, you know, the dust has really settled, then try to have a conversation with me. I think if Adriana would have just left it alone for that night and then the next day talk to her, maybe she wouldn't be feeling this way, because I'm that type of person. Even if I offend somebody or someone's mad at me, I normally give it at least like a day, and then I'll reach out to you and then we can go on from there. So while they're on the sprinter, Stephanie is like really seething at the fact that Alexia and Marisol aren't there. So, like I said, Stephanie is perturbed, okay? She is upset that Alexia and Marisol decided not to get on the jet with them. So she's sitting in the front of the sprinter. Julia's sitting behind her. She turns all the way around and she's like, so why didn't they want to get on the plane? And so Julia basically says Marisol and Alexia felt like the rules were a bit much. And sometimes, Stephanie, your delivery is very bossy. Stephanie then turns around and she's like, don't call me bossy when I'm letting you use my plane. And so Julia's in her confessional basically saying, girl, you're proving them right. Like, you're proving Marisol and Alexia right. So then Stephanie, for somebody who constantly says that they are not sensitive, this is the second time we are seeing this lady cry. So she is like trying to, like, I think she had one of the triangle little brushes, trying to like powder brushes, trying to dab her makeup because her tears are welling up. Then we actually see her get a towel and like dab her face like this. And I'm like, girl, where's a cry angle when you need one? Shouts out to Candace. I'm mad that she never capitalized off of that and gave us cry angles. Because if she would have marketed like a cute little 3 to 4 set thing of cry angles, I would have ate it up. I would have got me one, okay? Just a little boop, boop. When you about to tear up, would have ate. Okay. So she's upset. Larsa can tell. So Larsa tries to chime in and she basically says, like, y'all, Stephanie is pretty much damned if she does, damned if she don't. Like, she gave us this opportunity to ride on her plane. And my thing about it is, the key word is she offered and she gave. Like, Stephanie offered the plane or gave the plane to you guys. That does not mean that people have to accept the favor or be so gracious to like be like, oh my God, thank you, Stephanie. And it's also not really great that Stephanie likes to throw that in people's faces, because nobody wants to be offered a favor and then you hold that over their heads. So I get what Larsa is saying, but also, girl, no ma'am. But I will say, it is really a big favor, because I did Google how far is Seville from Marbella, and it's 2 hours and 40 minutes. So she is turning a 40-minute, like a 2 hour and 40-minute drive into 22 minutes in the air. But honestly, I would drive before I have to listen to you tell me how, like, I should be grateful that you let me on the plane. Okay. So they get on the plane. Stephanie does this speech. Larsa is holding her hand, and I'm like, girl, how much emotional support does this lady need? Okay. And she's just like, you know, thank y'all for flying, show my air. Let's have a good time. They get drinks together. And then, you know, they lower the blinds on the planes and then turn on the music and everyone's dancing. Gertie's in the confessional like, yeah, this is what I'm talking about. Let's have a fun time. Let the good times roll. And then we also flash back to Marisol and Alexia. They out on the terrace texting and calling whoever they need to call. We get back to the plane and they are finally in Marbella, and you hear Stephanie talk about how, like, you know, etiquette is important. Like, we had this 22-minute flight and everything went great. So before they even get off the plane, Stephanie wants to do another speech where she talks about how, you know, I feel so bad, Julia. Like, I'm so sorry to Julia that Alexia and Marisol couldn't be here for you. People that were supposed to be your friends could not just accept my rules of not pooping on my plane for 22 minutes or not wearing zippers to rip up the cloth on my seats or to make sure they throw things in the trash. Okay, they couldn't do none of that. So you can tell that everyone's looking at Stephanie like, oh, are you good, girl? like what are we doing? Gertie and Kiki are like, well, now Julia's trying not to feed into it, but you can tell that she is like agreeing with Stephanie because her feelings are hurt that they didn't show up. And so then she sits down before they, like, I guess officially like stop driving the plane, and she's like, if anybody disagrees with me, you're crazy. So then we actually see them get into another sprinter, and, you know, Julia thanks Stephanie for offering the plane to her. They also talk about how there's a difference between Seville and Marbella, where she's like, you know, here it's beautiful. Like, this reminds me of Miami. This is more of the cosmopolitan area where everybody is a lot younger. You can go to the club and dance till 6 in the morning. It just gives very much Miami vibes. And she's like, I'm just so excited to be here and share this part of like my life with the girls. So, like I said, the ladies are in Marbella and they pull up to Villa Mona, which is, I think they never said it was Derek and Jeffrey's house, but I feel like it's Derek and Jeffrey's house, or maybe it's just Derek's house. Either way, the outside of the house is beautiful. And I'm going to be honest, I was not impressed with the decor on the inside of the house. It looked old. And I just like, this ain't the vibe I was going for. But the outside, oh my gosh, y'all. Like when they gave us the aerial shot of what it looks like outside and then the view of the beach being like right there, I was like, this looks like it looks like a resort. Like I would be outside every day. Like I would either be by the pool, in the pool, or I would be sitting where the chairs are in front of the beach. It was gorgeous. I said the inside of the house took away from the outside, but then you fixed it when you showed me that backyard. I said, oh my God, y'all got money. Okay. Like money falling from the sky. Like this is wealth. And I said, I see why Julia now wants to make these men her children's godparents, because they have money. They're coined up. Okay. So they're all like impressed with the house. Everyone is like, oh my gosh. I will say when they were walking up to the house, I thought it was kind of weird that Adriana was in the back. I was like, maybe she just got out of the car late, but I just thought it was weird that everyone was in front of her and nobody was trying to walk with her. I mean, I could be reading too much into it, but I was like, Julia, go make sure you're a friend. Okay. But they walk into the house. Everyone's like, oh my gosh. You got Gertie and Lisa saying, girl, this is some White Lotus type of stuff right here. Lisa's like, girl, this is very much giving White Lotus. And I feel like Jennifer Coolidge. The gays are trying to kill me, And this is after she meets Derek. She was like, Derek reminds her of Tom Hollinger, who was in White Lotus. And so she's just like, this is amazing. We meet Derek. He greets all the women very nicely. He tells them they're all gorgeous and beautiful. We see his staff there. They're getting the food ready. We see them passing out champagne, making sure that outside looks lovely for them. We find out that Julia, Derek, Martina, and Jeffrey have been friends for years. That her daughters used to come to Jeffrey's house all the time, and Derek's house. Because I think this is Derek and Jeffrey's house. But y'all know who I'm talking about. They come to the house having holidays and just having fun there. Like, this is somebody that really is a part of their family. So Derek is going around showing the women the house, and they're just getting more and more impressed. We then end up seeing them go sit outside, and he said something about like, thank y'all for the compliments, but this is all old and stuffy. Now, I will say the furniture was giving old and stuffy. Then Adriana says, for this to be old and stuffy, I might want to take it. Maybe what Kiki said about me is a compliment, So as they're sitting there, Lisa's like, I need to make an announcement. And they're like, okay, girl, what's your announcement? She's like, you guys, I'm officially divorced. And everybody is cheering except Larsa. So this is where Larsa annoyed me, because like I told y'all in the intro, Stephanie got on my nerves because of that stupid plane. Larsa is getting on my nerves because she won't let this thing go with Lisa. And we'll talk about how Lisa worked my nerves in a few minutes. But I was like, Larsa, if you just don't toast that lady and keep it pushing, why you gotta be so stank? Why are we being stank right now? So Lisa lets it be known she's officially divorced. Everyone's trying to clank glasses. Lisa even tries to clank glasses with Larsa, and Larsa's like, girl, I'm good. And she was like, really? Really? For real. So she's like, after what happened, Lisa's in her confessional being like, after what happened last night with Kiki and Adriana and everything, and how it was a disaster and everything, I didn't get an opportunity to tell the women my good news. She basically ends up saying that when she got back to her hotel room, she got a phone call from Jody. Jody was like, oh, did you see the message from John? I'm guessing John is her attorney. And she's like, no. And then she goes and looks, and she was like, she reads it. She was like, you are officially divorced. And she's like, oh my gosh, like, okay. I don't like this, Lisa. This also is what annoyed me. I'm like, Lisa, you have Jody too intertwined in your stuff. Why does this man, Like, why is he being CC'd, or does he have access to your emails? Like, why does he know that you're officially divorced? That's news you should be giving him, not news he should be giving you. I don't like it, girl. I don't like it. It's just, I feel like Lisa is stupid. She's so like, she can be like, I don't know if she's purposely being naive or if this is just her. And I don't like when women are like this, because we know men can do some of the most hateful shit to you when they're done with you. And I'm like, girl, you've already experienced that with Lenny. I just feel like she's setting herself up, and she got kids, for that to happen again with Jody, because it doesn't really seem like, we don't know if Jody's a horrible person. He doesn't seem like it, but we also don't know how Jody get down behind closed doors. And I'm just always like, girl, make sure you're protected. So Lisa tries to clink glasses with Larsa. Larsa's like, girl, I'm good. And Lisa's like, well, I was trying to extend an olive branch. And she ends up saying in her confessional, like, what am I cheering for? More lawsuits? Like, this is just a pause for them. This is not like the end of their relationship. They're going to still keep fighting. Gertie's in her confessional being like, come on, Larsa. Like, we all tired of hearing about Lenny. This is a good thing. We've been hearing about Lenny for the past 2 years. And I'm like, I get what Larsa is saying, because she could have a point about them arguing again, but you're being a Debbie Downer, girl. Like, get over yourself, Larsa. Get over yourself. So we end up seeing two of Julia's friends pull up. This one guy named Chris and another guy by the name of Danny. And while everyone is saying hi to them, you see Larsa tell Julia, I wish Marisol and Alexia could have came. And you can tell that Julia wanted them to come too, but she's not trying to like read into it. And you hear Stephanie be like, oh, that's nice that you're letting this happen. Like, you're okay with them not being here. Like, okay, that's cute. That's so sweet of you to be so understanding, Julia. And you could tell that Julia is annoyed that Stephanie is clocking her. But Stephanie has a point. You're giving Alexia and Marisol this pass, and you really shouldn't be, if you ask me. So the scene switches and we go back to Seville. We see Marisol and Alexia. They're sitting down at this restaurant, like a little cafe, drinking cappuccinos. And they're just both talking about how it was great for them not to be around the group. They just needed a time to like reset and relax. And sometimes you do need that in group trips, especially if everyone's constantly fighting. That is a lot, because you can't go home to like your regular home, to like your sanctuary. So while they're sitting there, Alexia is talking about how Marisol gives great deliveries, and Marisol's like, yeah, I do. But then they flash back to when she told Nicole it was a stupid question that she asked the lawyer after she slapped down her Air Max card. I think that was season 5. Then she was like, well, you know, I get it from my mom, Mama Elsa. Then they flash back to when, I think that was season 2 of Miami, when Mama Elsa told that drag queen that she was gonna smack her in the face with her purse. I said, girl, neither you or your mama give good deliveries. What are y'all talking about? Okay. I said, that's a mess. So we see that Marisol is inviting everybody on this like 2 or 3 day cruise, and it's going to be ran by Virgin Airlines. We find out that Marisol has a relationship with Richard Branson. If you don't know who that is, Richard Branson is the guy who owns Virgin Airlines and Virgin Cruises. That man is worth $2.5 billion. Now that's money, right? That's okay. It may not be ethical, but that's money right there. So then she's like, you know, talking to him. He was like, how's everything going now that you're married again? You know, giggling about that. And she thanks him for allowing her to like invite the women on the trip. And she's excited. She also tells Marisol tells Alexia, you know, on Richard's planes or on his like boats, everybody can do whatever they want. You can drink, you can eat, you can poop. There's not rules there against that type of stuff. So she's excited for everyone to come. We then flash back over to Marbella. We see that the women are getting ready to have dinner. I would have been happy because I love lobster. So we see the chef getting the lobster ready, and Lisa was acting like she ain't never been nowhere. And there was a point in this situation where at first it was funny and then it got cringy and embarrassing, where I was like, Lisa, if you don't sit down. So they sit down in this like foyer kind of area. They're all like eating dinner. Lisa's feeling like, oh my gosh, I feel so fancy. Like, I feel like I got to get, take drinks by the stems. You know, anybody want some Grey Poupon? Grey Poupon. Grey Poupon. Anybody want Grey Poupon? You know, and everyone's laughing for a little bit, but then she kind of takes it too far. So then she gets up and she's like, I have an announcement, you guys. And everyone's like, girl, Kiki's like, how many announcements you gonna give us? Like, what's going on? And she is like, well, I think it's so wonderful that we were able to spend this time with Julia. We find out, I think before then, Julia did ask Derek and Jeffrey to be the godparents, and they said yes. And she was just like, you know, this is so wonderful. I feel like we needed to pour. And Gertie was like, girl, this is not LA. We not pouring out liquor for the dead homies. And I was like, yeah, Lisa, now it's getting cringy. So now everyone's kind of like looking at her and laughing at the table, because I was like, where were you going to pour that wine or the liquor? Like, was there a plant there? And then Lisa's like, oh, my bad. And I'm like, Lisa, sit down. Sit down. And you could tell that Gertie was low-key getting annoyed with Lisa, because she was looking at her like, girl, what are you doing? Larsa says, you know, like at a award show, they have that music where they play you off. It's time for somebody to play Lisa off. And I actually agree with Larsa right here, because in the beginning, I thought it was funny with the whole like Grey Poupon, I need to hold of the stem of the glass. Like, I thought that was funny. But then when she started getting up and like, I was like, were you really about to pour wine on this man's linens? What are we doing? What are we doing? So then we end up seeing Julia and the guys that are there walk off to the beach so that they can call Martina and like, you know, show her that they accepted being the godparents. Adriana's a little bittersweet. She thinks it's wonderful that Julia asked them to be the godparents, but she was like, she wished she would have been asked to be a godmother, because she's like, I've been here and like, I would love to do that. But I'm like, Adriana, let's be real. You should have known that lady really didn't have your back when she didn't want to get you on that plane with her. When she did not pull a Marisol move and say no, or an Alexia move and say, no, I'm not getting on this plane if my best friend's not getting on it, you should have known she wasn't going to ask you to be a godparent. And honestly, you probably shouldn't be a godparent, because you can't trust somebody like Julia. So we see Julia, you know, on the phone. They see the kids. I mean, I think it's nice, but also, where are the black people? You have black sons. Where are the black men in their lives? Where are the black women in their lives? Like, you just can't surround them with white people. And especially you can't surround them with old white people. Because Derek and Jeffrey look like they a little long in the tooth too. They look like they might be around the age of Martina in their 70s. Okay? Julia, where are the young people? Where they at? We then have Stephanie also on the phone with her significant other. So Stephanie's on the phone with Masood. And honestly, that conversation gave very much like a father-daughter conversation. Like, it reminded me of the conversations I will have with my parents when I'm on a girls trip and I'm ready to go. And I'm just like, I can't wait till you come and pick me up because I'm over this. But like, it was kind of weird. And it does show that Stephanie does not have friends beyond her husband, because she ends up saying something to the effect of like, I didn't know how cruel the world is without you. And I'm like, are you always up under him like that, Stephanie? Like, you don't have no other people that you kick it with? And I just feel like, girl, like, what your experience is very much like a common experience on like a girls trip. Like, especially on a girls trip with a group that is this big. Like, everybody has different emotions. People you normally took in small doses, you're now taking them in full force because y'all are forced to see each other every day. Y'all are eating together. Y'all eating breakfast, lunch, and dinner together. Y'all are going out every day. Like, it becomes overwhelming. It becomes a lot. But that's like normally typical on a girl's trip. So the fact that like she's never experienced that, I was like, dang, you really don't have friends. And you be up under that man all the time. Because for him to say, you know, something to the effect of like, you're not underneath my beautiful wing, I'm like, is she a baby bird? Like, Stephanie, like, this is not giving boss, you know, I'm a boss ass bitch. It's not giving that, Miss Stephanie. I'm sorry. I was just like, girl, I don't know. Stephanie, you're disappointing me. So then we see Kiki and Gertie. They're like dancing together, and Kiki starts twerking. And she was like, is this ratchet? And Gertie said, just a little. So then while they're talking, Kiki basically says that she doesn't have any intentions on having a conversation with Adriana today about what happened in yesterday, because she was like, this is a beautiful time. She was like, I didn't come to Spain to argue with anybody. I ain't leave my kids to go argue with anyone. And she was like, I don't want to have a conversation with her. And Gertie is listening and like validating Kiki's experience. And it sucks because I feel like in this episode, we saw Gertie and Kiki actually like their friendship. So I just wish that it didn't end with Kiki blocking Gertie and Gertie feeling like Kiki wasn't there for her and stuff like that. I hope if they both are on season 8, they're able to like mend their relationship, because they actually look like they do have fun together and they do have an actual friendship. So then we see this situation with Adriana and Lisa, where Adriana is coming up with this story about how she doesn't really like, she now understands why Kiki was upset with her, because the word that she was trying to use was wretched, not ratchet. Ratchet and wretched don't sound the same to me, y'all. I'm sorry. Wretched, ratchet. There's an A. Rat, like rat, you know, like I just like, okay, Adriana. And so she says the word, and she basically was just like, you know, this is the word I was using, wretched. And Lisa was like, yeah, that does kind of sound like that word. So then Chris, we find out he's English. He's like, they're like, can you say this word for us? And he was like, wretched. And they were like, oh, it does kind of sound like ratchet. And so Lisa's like, see, it does kind of sound like that. So then she's in the confessional trying to hear if she can hear it, like where she's like, ratchet. Wretched. And I was like, okay, girl. So she was like, you know, my accent is okay, but you know, what's her name? Adriana has a thicker accent than me. So more than likely, that's the word she meant to say. So we then get this scene of Julia crying to Derek about her daughters, where she was just like, you know, they haven't talked to me. And she was like, could you talk to them? It's just like, it's been a lot. She was just like, they won't speak to me. And she was like, you know, I'm not really a crier, but Martina is. And Martina is basically like, what if I get cancer again? Then will they talk to us? Like, then will they speak to us? And she was like, what should I do? And Derek ends up saying time. And she was like, well, how long do I wait? Because my brother said the same thing. And she was like, can you just tell them, like, when you talk to them, like how much I love them and want to speak to them? And I feel like it's way more to this story than this divorce situation, because I don't believe that her daughters would just stop talking to her because she adopted these 2 kids. I feel like either this not a divorce, but this adoption was like the final straw of like, girl, you never listen to us, you never take us into consideration, and we're done. Or there was other things that has happened before, and Julia is just using this adoption for us to be like, this is the reason why they're not speaking to us. It's either or, because I just can't see them not talking to her, and it's all because of the adoption. There has to be more to it, y'all. It has to be way more to it. But Derek said he'll call the girls because they have that type of relationship. He's like, I'm okay if they're mad at me, but I'll tell them how much you miss them. So the trip to Marbella is over, and we're back in Seville. I think it is the next day, because I think the day after that, they all leave and we're back in Miami. But I don't think, I think it's the same day. Or maybe it's not the same day, y'all. I don't know. It feels like a new day, so I'm going to say it's a new day. So we see the ladies are all getting ready to go to Plaza de España. We see Tomas again, and he's like showcasing, like he's going to everybody's room and dropping off their flamenco dresses. And so everyone's super duper excited. Most of the girls have on their outfits. They're down in the lobby area. Lisa is late, still getting her hair and makeup done. She eventually shows up, and they all pile into the Sprinter. Everyone is spinning around in their dresses, feeling pretty. And then they get to Plaza de España. Very beautiful place. Looks like it's full of a lot of history. So then Marisol lets it be known that they had planned this whole birthday celebration for Stephanie a week in advance. Julia lets them know that they wanted to make Stephanie feel welcome. So they decided to do horse rides or carriage rides around the plaza to get like a beautiful scenic view. So they're supposed to break up into groups. So they break up into groups, and they're all having a good time. Everyone's excited. Stephanie is like, I can't believe I'm in Seville in this dress on the carriage rides. I'm so happy right about now. So then when they get to a certain part in the plaza, there is a singer, a flamenco singer, as well as traditional flamenco dancers. And girl, the way that lady was whipping that dress, I said, girl, you better whip it. Like, that would have been me. I was like, I want to train so I could spin around like she was spinning around. So Stephanie immediately calls Masood because you can hear the lady singing happy birthday in Spanish, because I know cumpleaños means birthday. So she starts getting emotional. Yeah, for someone who says they don't get emotional, they're not sensitive, she is about to be in tears. Actually is in tears. And she calls Masood on FaceTime and she's like, they're singing happy birthday to me. So then she is just like overwhelmed with emotion. Julia ends up telling her, like, we did this for your birthday. It was both me and Marisol. We wanted to make you feel welcome and celebrate you. Stephanie gets an attitude in the confessional where she's like, oh, I'm grateful, like I'm thankful for this, but this is kind of like whiplash because you was just calling me bossy the other day. And I'm like, Stephanie, see, that's your problem. You are bossy, but why can't you just take this moment to just bask in the fact that these people cared enough to show you a good time on your birthday? Like, what is this? So then we see all of the women dancing around. Adriana's talking about how flamenco is used to heal people. And then we get this nice, beautiful shot of them like on the balcony in their dress. And it was nice. Then it takes a detour. Okay. So Stephanie wants to have a conversation with Alexia. The group splits up into groups. So Stephanie pulls Alexia to the side and they start talking. Alexia says maybe Marisol should be here because Stephanie wants to talk about them not getting on the plane. And Stephanie is like, why does she need to be here? Like, I can have a conversation with you. I don't really want to have a conversation with her. She did this thing for my birthday. And Alexia is like, well, we both weren't there. And I actually agreed with Alexia. Granted, it does seem like they're conjoined at the hip, but in this moment, they both did not go on the trip. So you should be addressing both of them. So Alexia basically says, like, you know, we didn't want to go on the trip. Marisol had some issues with the rules. And you can hear Stephanie getting irritated, but because before they even got to Plaza de España, when everybody was down in the lobby area waiting for all the girls to get there, specifically Lisa, you hear Marisol tell Stephanie, oh, you know, Alexia and I, we just needed a moment. We just needed to spend time with each other. That's it. We should have, like, you know, she was like, I wish I could have went. The pictures were so beautiful. And the house looked lovely, but we just needed a moment. Then you have Alexia telling somebody else in the group that Marisol was really bothered by the rules and she just decided to stay with Marisol because she didn't want to go. So now Stephanie feels like they're both trying to backpedal, but then when you listen to what they're saying, they're both saying what Julia said. They didn't like the rules and they wanted to stay behind. And also the text message that they sent to you about wanting to relax is the same thing. Two things can be the same thing. So I don't think they're backpedaling. So while they're talking, Alexia keeps saying like, well, you know, Marisol wanted to stay behind the rules and everything. And so she's like, we just wanted time for ourselves. So then Stephanie was like, well, I don't understand what the reason was. So before Stephanie could get everything fully out, Alexia cuts her off and she was like, and I just want you to know, it wasn't for you to take it personally. It really didn't have nothing really to do with you. And Stephanie's like, well, I let you talk, let me speak. And she snaps back at Alexia. So Alexia was like, girl, don't talk to me like that. And she was like, girl, that's your problem. That's your problem. You be talking to people crazy and you don't think people can talk back to you crazy. So then you could tell that Stephanie was taking it back that Alexia was talking to her like that. So then Stephanie was like, well, why were you telling people that you were like, I was going to kick people off the plane? Because I forgot to say that. Julia said that Alexia and Marisol were also worried that if things didn't go down the way that Stephanie wanted them to go down, that they could be stranded in Marbella. And Stephanie was like, what type of human being would I be if I did that? And Alexia was like, you did say that. And they showed the flashback. And Stephanie, you did say that. You basically said that if people don't act the right way, they could drive back home. That's basically telling them that you would strand them in that city. You would leave them stranded. Like, what are you talking about? So they start arguing back and forth. Stephanie starts to say that Alexia and Marisol stabbed her in the back and were being two-faced. And Alexia was like, girl, I don't want to talk to you no more. So she starts walking away. Stephanie starts following behind her. And they're arguing like at each other as they're walking back to the group. Julia say, like, no bueno, no bueno, because she is like, oh my God, they really arguing right now. And mind you, I think this is a tourist location. So it's a bunch of people around while they arguing and yelling at each other. So then we see Gertie and Larsa walk up the steps talking about what are they arguing about? Like, what are they talking about? And then Adriana said, girl, they arguing. And they like, for real? So then Stephanie runs up to Lisa and blatantly lies and says that, Lisa, they didn't want you on the plane the other day. And Alexia said, girl, you are lying. That's a bold-faced lie. And so Lisa's in her confessional saying, I can't make heads or tails of what people are saying because it's too many people talking at once. So Larsa ends up saying, no, I was the one that was like, I was the one that was okay if you didn't come. She was like, Stephanie asked me if I would be cool if you didn't come or if I didn't want you to come. And I said, yeah, I would be fine with that. And then they show the flashback of Stephanie asking Larsa that. So I was like, girl, why did you lie, Stephanie? So then Lisa is like, girl, you've been working on overtime, Larsa, to get me kicked out of this group. Like, you don't run this group. And then she ends up calling her Petty Pippin. And so Lisa and Larsa start arguing back and forth. They start getting loud. Then you have Kiki and Gertie standing off to the side like, oh my God, like y'all doing all of this? And then Marisol is like, come on, y'all. So then Stephanie starts yelling at Marisol and Alexia, calling them twins. Then Marisol is like, girl, you don't run nothing over here. You don't get to dictate how we roll. I said, oh my God. Y'all can get out. So then Larsa and Lisa are yelling at each other again. And Larsa is like, girl, shut up, shut up, shut up. And then Lisa is like, I'm holding my mouth with you, Larsa. So then you got Kiki in her confessional saying, girl, this is ratchet. Now, this is what you call ratchet. So then Larsa is like, girl, stop holding your mouth. Say it, say it, say it. She's like, lumpy and bumpy. I said, oh my God. What the fuck? I said, y'all are a mess, okay? So then they start arguing. Then Marisol yells at Stephanie saying, shut your mouth. I had it up to here with you in Spanish. She's like, girl, I'm sick of you. I'm sick of you. So then she ends up calling them twins again. And they're like, we're not twins. Alexia's like, well, my dad was actually a twin. But me and Marisol are not twins. So then Alexia is telling Stephanie, girl, Marisol is her own person. I don't control her. Even though she kind of pushed Marisol to say something, they start yelling at each other. And so then Alexia is like, girl, you're trying to break this group apart, not bring us together. I said, y'all are loud, loud, loud. So then next thing you know, Stephanie says arguing with Alexia and Marisol is triggering because it reminds her of her sisters. And I said, girl, then you the problem. You the problem, because you think you can run your mouth and speak to people a certain way, and then when they bite back at you, all of a sudden, oh my God, they're being rude to you. Learn how to speak to people, Stephanie. Maybe you wouldn't have them problems with your sisters, okay? I was trying to give you the benefit of the doubt in the beginning, but girl, I'm starting to see why your sisters don't like talking to you. Because if I was one of you, I would be cussing you out. Like, you not gonna talk to me crazy just because you got more money than me. That's not how we roll over here, okay? So next thing you know, you hear Marisol say, girl, let's just go back to the hotel. Like, it's time to go back to the hotel. We just all need to go back to the hotel. So the group breaks up. So then we see it's 4 people. It's Kiki, Gertie, Stephanie, and Adriana. Stephanie is telling the group that Alexia and Marisol are upset that she's made friends with them. And I said, no, they're not. What are you talking about, Stephanie? What are we talking about? So then Kiki says, I don't understand how me and Adriana can put our things aside to, basically talk with each other after what happened the night before and be cool. So then Adriana takes it upon herself to apologize to Kiki by saying she didn't mean to use a word that has a double meaning. And I said, it doesn't have a double meaning, Adriana. Wretched and ratchet are not the same thing. It's not the same thing. And she was like, I did not mean that. I am sorry. So Kiki accepts the apology, and then she apologizes to Adriana for calling her old. And she basically tells Adriana, girl, you should take back your power. Like, I think you're beautiful. I tell you this all the time. And Adriana says, and I think you're beautiful too. And she was like, you being your age and the way you look, you're gorgeous. And so they move past it. You have Adriana in her confessional saying, I'm forgiving myself and I'm forgiving Kiki. But I'm like, what are you forgiving her for? Because you the one that kicked it off. If you never would have called that lady a name, whether it was wretched or ratchet, you wouldn't have been called old. So what we doing? And then Kiki says in her confessional, she says, I know how my mouth can be. And when you piss me off, I can go there with you. So she was just like, no matter how small it is, I do want to work on that. And I'm working on not being so reactionary to people. So they all have this sweet moment and everything's cool. We then get back to the hotel and we see Marisol and Adriana at the bar, and Marisol is upset, like legit, like crying. Like she was like, I'm just so upset. Like it was such a beautiful moment. I'm still kind of worked up from it. Like this was not supposed to be what was supposed to happen today. We then see Lisa, Julia, and Alexia out on the terrace, and they're sitting down and talking about what happened. And then we see Stephanie and Larsa talking in Stephanie's room. So Stephanie is just like, it was a lot dealing with them. She starts to say that she thinks that maybe it's more so Marisol than Alexia. And I'm like, ooh, Stephanie. To me, Stephanie is the type of person... How do I say this? Stephanie reminds me of Monique Samuels. Monique had the package when we met her. She was young, pretty, had fashion sense, had the money. She had it. And for some people, she had the personality. Stephanie is similar, but I don't think she has the personality. But the way in which Monique thought her wealth and like her aesthetic was going to get her friends in the group, I think Stephanie thinks that was going to happen with the plane and everything. And the fact that Alexia and Marisol are not impressed by her, more specifically Alexia, because something about Stephanie makes me feel like she thought that either she was going to be able to come into this group and take Alexia's spot, and she's realizing I can't go there with Alexia. Now it feels like she's trying to default and now take Marisol's spot. Because why are you so like fixated on the way that Marisol behaves with Alexia? And why now are you trying to make it seem like Marisol is being two-faced? Now we know Marisol can be a snake. She can be two-faced. But in this situation, girl, you're the problem. It's not either one of them. It's you. Because then Stephanie likes to say, like, you know, Marisol and Alexia act like her sister, where they tell you one thing to your face, but then they have conversations and then they feel a different way. Maybe once they talk about things after getting away from you, they realize how you be playing in their face. So we end up having Marisol downstairs. We end up seeing Gertie and Kiki, and basically Marisol says, I have this little small committee because I don't know how things are going to go on the cruise. She was like, I want things to go well, but she was like, Larsa and Lisa can't get it together. Stephanie and Alexia can't get it together. And I don't know how we gonna pull this group together, but I want to have a good time. We go back to Lisa, Alexia, and Julia having a conversation. And basically Alexia saying how she feel like Stephanie is trying to run this group and I'm not going to allow her to. And then she also says, you know, and I've never seen Larsa beat up someone's butt so bad. And Lisa's like, me neither. Like, she really is wedged up in there. And she is. Like, normally Larsa isn't this like go along to get along, but she really wants to be cool with Stephanie, okay? And so as they're talking, because Alexia says she does not think it's fair the way that Larsa is behaving towards Lisa, all of a sudden they start to smell like burning candles, and they find out that a funeral procession is going on, and they feel like it's a sign from God that they need to stop arguing about this small stuff, and that they need to like be appreciative for the relationships that they have and for each other. So then they watch the funeral procession. They're all wondering if the rest of the women have seen the funeral procession. And then we see Larsa and Stephanie praying about like, and at first I thought they was joking, but then Stephanie was trying to take it seriously, and I think Larsa thought it was a joke too, until Stephanie was like, no, we gotta be serious about this. So Stephanie is like, God, please protect me and help me clean up the blood from the knives out of my bag. And then Larsa is like, please God, open up my heart for Lisa, even though she's acting crazy right now. And that's where the episode ends. So yeah, y'all, that is it. That is all. As always, remember to be bravely authentic. Drop down in the comments below, like the video, and subscribe. And I'm out, y'all. Deuces.